Hi, this video was originally broadcast on twitch.tv/Andy Cormier. One of the goals of my content is to help creators to make their best content, be more productive and tech-savvy, and otherwise achieve their goals. I originally purchased my Apple Silicon MacBook Pro for productivity, but I quickly realized it had a lot more utility. So, I set it up as a streaming machine. I'm literally in last place right now. Subscribe if you like to push the boundaries of what your tech can do, and let's get started. If you're like me, you are probably addicted to the newest tech, gadgets, whatever. Honestly, when it comes to productivity, buying an M1 MacBook Pro is probably the single best purchase I've made in the last year or so. It's such a game changer for productivity, video editing, whatever, because I can do everything at my desk and on the go. I transitioned from the M1 MacBook Pro from a Windows gaming desktop just barely out of frame rate here. And that got me thinking. I have a gaming PC. I used to work for a company that produced a lot of streaming hardware and thus have a lot of streaming hardware all around my house. So what if I decided to use my MacBook as a streaming PC? I did a little bit of experimentation, and what do you know? I am currently streaming using my M1 MacBook Pro, and I just realized there's way more than just productivity for that. Here is how I set up my M1 MacBook Pro as a streaming setup. So first off, this is not an OBS tutorial. There's plenty of OBS tutorials out there for like, what's your best bit rate? How do you make scenes? What's the best capture card? All that jazz. We're not going to be going over that, at least not in depth, aside from how it pertains to the unique quirks of streaming from a MacBook. We're mainly going to be talking about the tools you need to set up your MacBook, the different quirks, the different processes that are unique to using an M1 or Apple or otherwise Apple Silicon device as a stream machine. First off, we'll be discussing video capture. Next, we'll be discussing cameras and webcams. Third, we'll be discussing audio. Then we'll be going over some miscellaneous accessories. Last, we'll be going over USB hubs, dongles, all of that, because if you're streaming, chances are you have a crap ton of things plugged in to your computer. And then we'll be doing a little bit of setup tutorials for all of that as well. When it comes to video capture, you need a UVC capture card. UVC stands for USB Video Class Protocol, but we'll just be referring to that to UVC. And most USB capture cards, especially recently released ones and those from the likes of Elgato, AverMedia, EVGA, pretty much anything that they have that is USB is also UVC. But you absolutely need a UVC capture card. Because, for example, let's say you're like, okay, my MacBook Pro has Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4 support. Therefore, I am going to get a Thunderbolt 3 capture card like the AverMedia Live Gamer Bolt. However, that will not work with your MacBook Pro because the Live Gamer Bolt requires drivers to install. This is what I use, AverMedia Live Gamer Ultra. That's simply because I used to work for AverMedia. It is a really good capture card, and if you're looking for maximum specs, reliability, and price, all balancing that together, it's probably your best option in this price range. It supports up to 4K 60 pass-through and input, but it captures 4K 30 or 1080p 60, as well as various other resolutions in between. I have the input as the gaming desktop and the output as my 4K 60 monitor, and I record or capture at 1080p 60 with it. So, for example, if I want to play Fall Guys, Elden Ring, whatever on stream, all I need to do is boot up my desktop, and then I do a little switcheroo to that device. And then I turn on the Live Gamer Ultra as a source on OBS, and then we're gaming. We're capturing content, whatever. So next up, if you are looking for something more budget, the EVGA XR1 Lite is by far the best bang for buck. It's not as reliable as like something from Elgato AverMedia because EVGA capture cards are like one minuscule fraction of a product line for EVGA because they make everything, whereas capture cards are the bread and butter of AverMedia and Elgato. So this is by far the best bang for buck capture card, but don't expect the best support or reliability. That said, I don't own this capture card, but every review I've seen, for example, from Epos Fox, Harris Heller, whatever, it's been extremely positive about this capture card, and it's $60 for 4K pass-through. Aside from this card, the cheapest 4K pass-through you can get from AverMedia or Elgato is like $119. So this is absurdly good price. I highly recommend it if you're on a budget. However, if you're not on a budget and you want the best possible capture card, you're probably going to want the Elgato HD60X. It has all the same capture specs as the LiveGamer Ultra. However, the Elgato HD60X, in addition, supports VRR, or variable refresh rate. But it occasionally will help you with screen tearing if that's an issue for you. This is the best capture card you can get by specs for an M1 MacBook or any other Apple Silicon device, because it's UVC and ultra powerful. So one thing to note is that on MacBooks, if you add, for example, a video capture device in OBS, it will register as just the video capture device. So you will also need to add an audio input device of that capture card. So it'll typically just be the name of the capture card. So in this case, I have a video capture of LiveGamer Portable 2 Plus and an audio capture of LiveGamer Portable 2 Plus. I just put them in a folder in OBS just so then I keep them together. Okay, so for webcam, I'm using a Sony a6100 with a Tamron 17-70 f2.8 lens for my front camera. And for my back camera, I am using a Sony a6600 with a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. If you're interested in using a camera and a capture card as a webcam for your streams, conferencing, or whatever, first watch to the end of this video, but I have another video about purchasing second-hand cameras and setting them up as amazing webcams at an affordable price. That'll be the suggested video at the end of this one, so watch to the end, leave a like, and then watch that one. But for now, let's get back to setting up your MacBook as a stream machine. I am a huge fan of using cameras with capture cards. Coalition Gaming and Epos Fox both have some great videos on extreme budget options for using capture cards and cameras as a webcam replacement. Coalition Gaming got it down to under $300 for a capture card plus webcam plus lens, which is absurd. You don't need the level of gear that I have. I am simply a tech geek, and I spend way more money than I ought to on technical things. You could be fine with something like the Logitech C920, or an AverMedia PW315, or an Elgato Facecam. Those are all three different various budget options, ranging from super cheap for 1080p at $60 with the C920, through about $200 for the Facecam. I use the AverMedia Livestreamer Cap 4K with my front camera, and then I use another capture card for an alternate camera. So let me just show that right there. This is the AverMedia Livestreamer Cap 4K. It has all the same specs as the Camlink 4K, so if you want something similar, but you're stuck in the Elgato ecosystem, those are more or less the same specs and about the same price. Okay, the Camlink 4K is $8 more, but whatever. So that's what I use to capture this camera right here. It's extremely good, it's extremely tiny, but if you're on a budget, just go ahead and get like the Logitech C920. But the point is, for both capture cards and for webcams or capture card plus camera combinations, it all needs to be UVC, USB Video Class Protocol, because UVC is driver free and it just works on MacBook. It works on Windows, Mac, and a lot of Linux without any setup, without any extra installation. But the gist is, if you're on an Apple Silicon device, you need UVC for your video. And that can range anywhere from your webcams to your capture cards. And one final thing to note, almost every single webcam in existence follows UVC protocol, and almost all current USB capture cards follow UVC protocol. So it's not something you exactly need to think about, but you might want to confirm it before you purchase just to be safe. I've listed options. They're all in the description, and you can check those there between what I use, what is best for budget, or what is like the best overall. Now, let's get down to audio. Apple Silicon devices, they have a lot of quirks when it comes to audio. If you go into OBS, so if you look at my audio section right here, you see it's the desktop audio is called Black Hole 16 channel and Black Hole 2 channel. What does that mean? If you look at the available audio devices, disabled and default would be your only options normally. Microsoft Teams Audios, I have that because Microsoft Teams is installed for me. But if you look at the audio devices I actually have, so let's go to sound. I have like my headphones, my speakers, various tracks for my mixer, my monitors. So it's all over the place. And none of those appear as audio output devices or desktop audio on Mac. The way you get around this is through Black Hole's driver utility to basically create dummy audio sources that can be combined with audio sources that you have and then actually captured in OBS. There are additional workarounds, like for example, like the audience mix on like a sub mix of my mixer as an input that just has all the output inputs. Confusing, but if you don't have a mixer or you don't have like Elgato Wavelink or anything like that, you do need to use Black Hole to capture your audio. The way you install it is you have to give them your email address to get a link to the download, but the only email I've gotten from Existential Audio is just the download link and tutorials. This also exists for Windows, but this kind of operates like a zero latency, like VB audio, virtual audio cable, stuff like that. But Black Hole, once you download it and install it, I recommend, if you're only capturing one source, like to get your Discord or whatever you're using for Spotify, I just recommend getting that one thing installed. So then, if you want to get multiple different audio tracks, for example, if you have a mixer that has like different virtual sound sources, like mine has a chat source and a system source, I downloaded 2 different versions of Black Hole, so I can make 2 separate tracks on there. So to get to this point, just press Command Enter to search. If you just search MIDI, you'll find Audio MIDI Setup, which is what I have going right here. And you'll want to make a multi-output device. So with this multi-output device, you can give it a custom name. If you're only doing one, you might not even bother. But basically, you'll select whichever Black Hole source you have, and then whichever you want, whatever audio you want to capture. So if I just want to capture the system, and set system as the master device. So whatever audio, replace system with whatever audio device you're using, whether that's your headphones, your MacBook speakers, whatever. And then for drift correction, you check that for the Black Hole, and then you set as your sound device the Black Hole 16 channel plus system, or whatever you've named your multi-output device. And then last step is in OBS, for your audio, you set your desktop audio as the same Black Hole that is used in the multi-output device. Blah! Speaking is hard. So this is a little convoluted, a little, honestly, kind of stupid, because it's so unwieldy to get all these steps put together. But that's how you hear me now. Well, that's how you, if I were to like launch Spotify, and then just go to, let me be real careful right here, lo-fi hip-hop music, you can hear that, because it's on my desktop audio. Otherwise, without Black Hole, you would need weird workarounds, or just to simply accept that you're not going to be able to capture any of your system audio. So this is extremely useful, it's completely free, and the setup is a little bit confusing, but they have the steps on their website as well. But now this all goes to say, Andy, what do you use for audio? So I use a Shure SM7B with the AverMedia Livestreamer AX310, formerly known as the Livestreamer Nexus. I use the AX310 because it's what I have. Full disclosure, I did used to work for AverMedia. So I received a bunch of products over the course of my time there to work on product launches, things of that ilk. And but that is to say, that's what I have. You don't need an XLR mic. Like you don't need a $400 mic and a $350 interface to get started. If you really want to just find something useful, you just start with like the Elgato Wave mic or something. So the Elgato Wave mic has a ton of features. It's super high quality. I don't own this mic, but it's one of the best reviewed mics that I've ever seen. So the Elgato Wave mic, the Wave 1 is $95, but honestly, I would recommend the Elgato Wave mic for if you want high quality audio and you don't want to have to upgrade for a very long time, if ever, just get the Wave mic or the Audio-Technica AT2020 or a inexpensive XLR interface and then an XLR mic of your choice. But when it comes to audio, you should invest a little bit more than you think you need to get the best quality. My audio setup is I have the AX310 set to low gain with phantom power through a cloud lifter to add clean gain to then go to my Shure SM7B. And that's complete overkill for streaming, but I like it. And like I've said, I spend way too much money on creative gear. It's a problem. Well, I'm not right now because I don't have a job, but I spend way too much money on creative gear. But that is all to say, pretty much any microphone should work with Mac. If you're really in a pinch, just use the built-in mic on your Mac. It won't sound great, but it's enough to get you started. Same with webcam. If you're in a pinch, just use the built-in webcam on your Mac. Like, it's not horrible. It doesn't look great with the amount of lighting that I have, but like, it's not horrible. That covers the primary quirk when it comes to streaming with your MacBook. It's all the audio, because you can't capture your output audio. When it comes to mic, there's no problems, no issues. Pretty much any mic and any software for those mics works on Mac, so you don't need to worry about that whatsoever. But if you're keeping count now, you'll notice that you have a capture card, if not multiple capture cards, a webcam, and a mic all plugged in, and an M1 MacBook Pro. It has 3 USB-C ports, which are Thunderbolt 4. That's not enough ports. So what do you do when there's not enough ports? You get a dongle. I've played around with a lot of Thunderbolt hubs and things like that, and I've always had an issue with them. So instead of getting a Thunderbolt hub, which would have higher bandwidth and would be able to support more, I opted to get just a USB 3.2 extremely simple hub. So if we go right here, this EasyQuest USB-C Gen 2 hub adapter, 7 ports, 3x USB-C 10 gigabits, Gen 2, 3x USB 3.0 5 gigabit port, and 1x USB-C power delivery. So this has been probably the best purchase I've made when it comes to using my Mac for streaming, because bandwidth is such a major issue. For example, I use a Asus ProArt 27-inch 4K monitor, and it has a built-in USB hub when you connect it via USB-C. So that's exactly what I use. However, the bandwidth of 4K video alongside the bandwidth of USB 3.0, I can't even have a USB 3.0 capture card get enough data bandwidth to function on here. So even if you have like, oh, I have a USB hub plugged into my monitor, which has a USB hub plugged into my Mac, which connects to via USB-C, chances are for a USB 3.0 or 3.1 capture card or anything like that, you're going to run into data bottlenecks. So for example, on my USB hub right here, I have 3 capture cards plugged in, and if I did any more than that, it would start running into issues. So I have the capture card for my camera, the capture card for my other camera, and my Live Gamer Ultra for my Windows desktop all plugged in together. And using this hub, there's just enough bandwidth for all of those to run simultaneously without issue. And if this is the only hub you get, like if you just use your MacBook without an additional monitor, and you have the only monitor you have plugged into your desktop, this hub would be enough. It has 3 USB-A ports, so you could plug in your capture card. One of your capture cards could plug into the USB-C ports if you get the right cable. Just make sure it's a USB-C, at least 5 gigabits per second or higher speed. I use those for 2 of my capture cards. But with this one hub, you could plug in a Stream Deck, a mic, and 1 or more capture cards and webcams. Within those webcams and capture cards, you could have 3 of them as USB 3.0. So this is way cheaper than a Thunderbolt hub. It's honestly more reliable in my experience for just the fact that it's a very simple function and it gets the job done. The only additional thing you might consider, so the only other thing that I don't use because I have really good Wi-Fi is a Ethernet port So you could get a USB Ethernet port, or instead of getting the USB hub that I showed you, purchase a Thunderbolt hub or a different USB-C Gen 2 3.2 adapter that also includes a Ethernet port. But I don't need it. I like having less cables, despite the fact that I have so many cables. My cable management is just pointing my camera away from cables. When it comes to USB, you just gotta make sure that the devices you plug in are not bottlenecked by a lack of bandwidth. A Thunderbolt hub would be the best, but Thunderbolt often is unreliable. The first hub that I had would disconnect after about 2 hours of use. And the second hub that I had would get so hot that my room literally increased in temperature by about 5 degrees. So I just use a very simple USB-C hub, and it has enough bandwidth for 3 capture cards, and if I want more USB 2.0 devices or whatever, and it's more than enough, and it's probably more than enough for you if you're using a MacBook. So last off, this video is all about how to stream using an M1 Mac, but if you're looking to build a PC for streaming, if you don't have a dedicated streaming PC, don't buy an M1 Mac just to be a streaming device. That's not an optimal use. Almost any Windows PC, while it is a lot less energy efficient, will have a lot more options to be used as a streaming device. However, I am using my M1 Mac's MacBook Pro as a streaming device because I bought it for other reasons. So if you have an M1 Mac, if you have any other Apple Silicon device that supports streaming, use it for streaming. It's definitely going to be powerful enough. The only one I wouldn't recommend would probably be like the MacBook Air, because there's no active cooling. But even right now, my MacBook is not getting hot from running OBS. I only dropped a few frames at the beginning, and otherwise I have dropped 0 frames. It's perfect for streaming if you take account its quirks. That said, again, you can get a much more cost-effective streaming setup if you just set up a Windows PC. It'll also have a lot more that it's capable of. To do a quick recap, we've gone pretty in-depth, and I've had multiple meandering rambles. When it comes to capture cards and webcams, you need to make sure that they are UVC or USB Video Class Protocol. UVC more or less means that no drivers are required, and it's plug, play, create. Just plug it in, set it up in your software, and it's there and it exists. I use the AverMedia Live Gamer Ultra because it's what I have, but if you're looking for a budget option, get the EVGA XR1 Lite, and if you want the absolute highest spec option and don't give a crap about money, get the Elgato HD60X with VRR support. When it comes to your camera, to start, just use the built-in webcam on your MacBook. It's 1080p. It's not perfect, and it doesn't look great with studio lighting, but it gets the job done to start, and if you can just place your MacBook where your webcam is at about eye level, you'll look great. Then from there, if you want something better, you could get something as inexpensive as the Logitech C920, or something as expensive as a mirrorless camera plus capture card setup like I'm using with my Sony a6100 and an AverMedia Livestreamer Cap 4K. You can also use a cam link. And then for audio, I use the AverMedia AX310 to capture my microphone. You can just get like an Elgato Wave mic, an Audio-Technica AT2020. There's pretty much any USB mic will be more than enough for a Mac, and it will definitely be compatible with a Mac. But then to actually capture desktop audio, let's say if you want to capture Discord, Spotify, or whatever coming from your MacBook, so you'll need to download Existential Audio's Black Hole software. In audio MIDI setup, you'll need to make a multi-output device by pressing plus. Set the master device as whatever you want to capture. In my case, this audio device is the system track of my mixer. And then add your Black Hole audio and then set it with drift correction. Then in sound, whatever Black Hole you have, whether it's 2-channel or 16-channel, plus system as your multi-output device. And then in OBS as well, set the Black Hole output as your capture. So the 16-channel one, that's for my system, and the 2-channel one, that's for my chat, which I use for Discord. So that I can have them separate and mixed separately. Okay, we're almost there. Then to tie it all together, just get a dongle or something. As long as it has enough bandwidth to support however many capture cards, webcams, and whatever you have, that'll be enough. You'll need probably 4 USB ports to get your Stream Deck, mic, webcam, and capture card all installed. If you want more for Ethernet, either get a Thunderbolt port that just has Ethernet built in, a hub that has Ethernet built in, or a USB Ethernet adapter. That concludes the setup part. So as you can see right here, makeuseof.com, written by Andy Cormier. Whoa! Published yesterday. This is actually my first article on the site. Anything that I went over in this video, you can find a lot of the similar tutorials right here, or a lot of the similar advice right here. Less of a buying guide and more of a just tutorials for the quirks. I'm really proud of this article right here. And basically, if you want to go through this tutorial at your own pace after watching the video, just check out the article. It'll be the first link in the description. Otherwise, other links in the description will be Amazon links and where to download Black Hole and all that. So thank you for watching this tutorial on how to use a Apple Silicon device as a streaming PC. Or should I say streaming Mac? If you enjoyed this video or learned something, be sure to leave a like, comment what your model of MacBook is if that you're going to convert into a streaming machine. And be sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.